Hello. Good evening. Somebody can confirm that they hear me. Make sure I did everything right. Let's see. Wow, I already have 94 people here. I guess it helps to schedule in advance. I could just get some. Okay, thank you, lady. Appreciate that, old timer. Okay, great. So let's get started. I will try to keep this because I know it's late for some people. Keep this, but I do have some things that I want to get through. The first thing I want to get through is we have, I think I saw Katie Cool Ladies here, and I went to save this to the end, but I think since Katie's here and she is just off a live stream that she did with Adelson Galvani, it was part 2 of their series about the story about Allison's mom. And I'm just going to jump to my end clip because I meant to sort of to promote it and send everybody there towards the end. But since Kathy is here now, and maybe if you want to engage them, or I don't know, just wanted to drop that off, that's there to go watch. It's part 2, and there's a part 3, and then please, in addition, you can watch it on Katie's channel, which if you're subscribed to me, you're most likely subscribed to her. But if you could go give Adelson, subscribe to her, she's got a really great story, and I'll let her tell it. But there's a and maybe we'll touch on it at the end, but there's I could take you as a really good way to get a foundation about her story before going to watch it on Katie Cool Lady's channel. And it's her being interviewed by the LA Times, giving an account of it. So it might be a good thing to read, to pique your interest, to go up and listen to her story. So I just wanted to give that shout out. Again, I'll do it at the end of the stream as well, but just wanted to, wanted to really point people towards this work because, I think it's a very beautiful thing that Kathy is doing, and not only helping others and being so vulnerable and speaking so openly and often on her channel, and how it drew someone to her, a like-minded individual. And it really just shows we all kind of are connected, and just good work. It's good people doing good work. And I just want to see it. I want to see people engage it. That's all. So anyway, so I wanted to give that shout out. Then I'm also going to be giving a shout out to Miss Judy. I don't know if we have a legal focus in here right now, but I also want to give her a little shout out tonight as well. But so the big thing is I want to talk about this relocation, and I do have some other new tidbits, new information to give you. But I will say, well, first off, let me just do some housekeeping, and then sort of this relocation is a big part of the presentation tonight. But the presentation is also, I want everyone to feel very chilled out and have a really good attitude. And I'm not going to go off on any rants, and keep it very positive. So I just want to set the scene now with this beautiful graphic, this water, this baby owl. Just really set the scene of what you're gonna get today. So the first thing I'm going to get into is Judy's catch. Then I want to get into relocations, and then I've got some more information on the witness list, particularly for the defense, because we've gone over a little bit of the states as they piecemealed it, and we're familiar with their case, but we're not really familiar with the defense that Donna is going to put on. So that's what I'm focusing on. Then I have some photos and things that people have sent in, contributions that I want to share. And then I have this promo that Wendy did when she moved to Miami, sort of around the time we're talking about all these relocations. So Wendy got on her feet and was able to get a job with this organization, and she did a promo for it. It's very interesting. And I actually screen grabbed it because I knew that one day it was going to be taken down, right? And I don't remember when I screen grabbed it. It went up in I'm trying to remember when. Well, we'll see. But I'll play it for you. It's just very interesting. And again, just so grateful that I grabbed it. Now I can share it with you, because if you wanted to go online to see it, you couldn't anymore. So I knew that was going to happen as soon as things started heating up, and particularly heating up for Wendy, that associations and organizations, everyone besides the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation is pretty much, and maybe some nonprofits that keep their head in their sand about murder and things like that. They are the ones that are still by her side, but this seems to be, they've kept one other video of her up. And this was the organization she worked at when she worked for that billionaire, Mike Fernandez. So just a little fun little set of B-roll that they tried to take from us, but they didn't really take from us because I grabbed it. I grabbed it for us, and I'll share that at the end. All right, so let's get to it. I'm gonna say hey to a couple of people before I move on. There's Maya. That's a friend at this point. Barbara, yes, I see you so many times. Jared, friend, good person, very talented video, maker. As someone who makes videos and is not trained at all, it's very impressive. I know it takes a lot of time, and he's just a good guy with a good heart, right? He's always out supporting everybody. So shout out to him. It's really appreciated. You're one of the good guys for sure. And there are a lot of good guys, but very much appreciate you and think the world of you, Society Page, and the work you do. Jared, we all know and love Jared. He is the face, one of the faces, him and Tamara, for Justice for Dan, and everyone knows him. And he's a big advocate for justice and a friend. And there's Mia as well, who's very loyal and very loyal to the cause, and also is very creative and finds a way to make creative connections and share great content. So I always appreciate her. True Crime Wifey, I see you all over. You are also great. What's up, Bruce? Long timer. All right, Peter. Oh, Scooter Girl. She's probably the original. If I probably had to give an award, a trophy, and there are a lot of trophies I'd probably give Miss Congeniality to Skeeter Girl, because even back in the very early days of Mentor Lawyer, when there was maybe 100 of us, watching, and we were just waiting for it to. Skeeter Girl was there. I remember her from the very, very beginning. So again, good group of people, and we're all so different, but we all and then also here's another, and I could go on. So I'm sorry if I'm missing you, but I want to get to it. But anyway, thank you all for joining. Okay, so here's the menu. Okay, so I wanted to give, this is Judy. So Judy, AA Legal Focus, posted something, and it was right after I saw it, right after I did I did my long rant about this and read all of this angrily on a live stream. And then after, Judy made this great connection that I totally went over my head, and I wasn't able. I took Rashbaum as a very well-paid lawyer and very well educated. I took him at his word. That's crazy. I took Daniel Rashbaum on his word, that the words that he put and the accounts that he would put in a motion in a court in a very high-profile case. I just took him at his word that he would not be either dishonest or clueless. It's one or the other. I don't think there's a middle ground. This is a murder trial. So this is why Judy, and I gave her the crown of the queen, and I put a little check mark. And so this is it was 0.5, which is kind of the meatiest, I think, point of them all, besides phones going off and where lecterns are placed, and they're inconveniently placed for him, or people talking or making faces. But the problem was that juror, right? The one that emailed him right after the verdict and told him about a group chain. He's a troublemaker, just whatever. He looked for problems. He looked for a problem in the jury that day, in the gallery that day, and then he looked for a problem when he stood up suddenly and stopped court proceedings. And the girl sitting next to me, who he accused, was not doing anything. She was a girl. I was sitting right there. So it was wild. So anyway, Judy pointed out here, so the point being the 0.5, it says, in Mr. Adelson's case, so Charlie, there's someone in the gallery took a photograph of a note passed between Mr. Adelson and his counsel on the second day of jury selection and proceeded to post that note on social media. I had no recall of this. And I said this at the time yesterday, and I said, I just do not, what? And I wasn't there for jury selection, but I remember thinking, text or send Katie Cool Lady a message, because she will know. And I've never talked about this with Kathy, so it felt like it just came out of nowhere. I did, and it was so funny. Before I got the chance to ping Kathy about it, to say, do you remember this incident that he's describing here? Because I don't. I mean, it sounds like maybe it could happen. I took him at his word. I was like, oh, but it sounded unusual. And then I watched her live stream this morning before I contacted her, and I saw that she, like, when she read this bullet, she was like, what? And I saw like a confused face. I was like, what? And I was like, she did the same thing I did. There's no reason to contact. There's something going on. But then Judy found this, and it's because Judy went and did her. It's because Daniel Rochbaum put in this, and he also put in a motion prior to this, before Charlie's trial. He was talking about all of us, and he said something about the publicity or the social media commentary. He says there are people who opine about this case, or he says something. It was very derogatory. It was a direct shot. I totally got it. I know who was writing. We opine, but we opine for good reason, because we can catch you trying to do either shady or very. It's not tight. It's not tight if you thought this was true. It's concerning. It's concerning that you would get something so big wrong on something that you know that we were all going to pick up on. So it's just, I don't know. It's just it's an interesting choice. Much like you deciding to represent Donna on the same case, 2 clients in the same case. But anyway, so she said, so here he's saying that a person, he needs a smaller courtroom because someone in the courtroom took a photograph of a note and it caused great distress. That's Judy. Judy called it out, and let's see what Judy said. So this is what Judy said. She says, I'll read it. She posted this on her YouTube. She said, Donna Adelson's motion trying to change. Oops, sorry, I forgot. I did my slides on video because I have video embedded in them, and it keeps jumping. There we go. Weird, my pause button's not working. Anyway, I'll just read it quick and hold it. It says, Donna Adelson's motion trying to change the courtroom to a much smaller one is based in part on a falsehood. No one inside the courtroom surreptitiously took a photo of a Post-it note that Kate Myers passed to Charlie Adelson. Someone watching the live on YouTube took a screenshot of the court video. So it was someone sitting somewhere, who knows where, and this was on TV. So it kind of sounds like you're trying to blame, you're totally rewriting history in that motion and trying to blame the concerned citizens in the courtroom. Not only is he trying to keep people out of that courtroom and severely limit the public's right to see this trial, to ease the discomfort of maybe himself and his client, Donna Adelson, he's pointing to problems that he's misconstruing in writing. And this is pretty severe. There's a big difference between someone taking a screenshot off court TV, then blaming falsely and quite inappropriately. This is concerning. Blaming that someone in person took this over your shoulder and somehow violated you. That's wrong. He should apologize to us. All right, so we have a troll. Someone doesn't know what they did. Ugh, yeah, it is a troll. I mean, they're paying. I think I've heard from good sources that they are. So I'm gonna just. If you're I've made a bunch of people monitors, and that's funny because it's like a backhand comment. It's like saying, "Are you okay?" Because have you ever had a brain injury? Like, are you okay? But I expect this, and anyone that's doing good work is going to polarize people and make enemies. And I'm at this point, I've accepted that. So if you have a little thing and someone's being inappropriate, just remove them. Okay, so going back. So sorry for them that distracted you. So this is very. He's making up a situation, blaming it on that there was a physical problem, and that's why he's got to limit the jury. I mean, not the jury, but he's got to limit the amount of people in the courtroom. But he just made up a problem to support his. He literally just grabbed out of the air that it was somebody in the courtroom when it was somebody on TV. And if it's someone on TV, he's got to address that with the cameras. And if he ever wants to be in a high-profile case any time with cameras in the courtroom, he's got to learn how to, watch the note passing. That's all. That's on him. And if he's got a problem, he needs to address it with the court and to address it with the cameras. But don't dare start making up that there's like some false, instance where somebody is in the courtroom physically is creating a problem when it just kind of sounds like you lied. You lied. 0.5 was a lie. So it's just very weird. Making up. So anyway, kudos to Judy. I guess there's no penalty for that. But anyway, so this is why we opine, because she did something creative around it. And so that's why she remembered it. So, and I heard from somebody, and I think Mentor Lawyer has posted trials from the courtroom which Judge Everett normally presides in. I think it's, I think it's 3B or 3G. I think 3G is the bigger courtroom and 3B is Judge Everett's courtroom. But someone said it's like only 3 to 5 pews, like rows of seats. It's much smaller. So, and then I also talked to somebody, 2 people said the same sentiment to me, which is they should just go ahead and grant the smaller courtroom motion. These are people thinking very logically. They're saying the court should probably go ahead and just grant that, because they're going to have to, they're not going to grant all the other motions. And so in order for it to look fair and look like they got something, and they would have to do this, which is a shame, because that's a false point. That's a falsehood. And cell phones are going to ring whenever. And it makes it seem like they're going to get away with it. And they're going to get away with it because people are moving the pieces around strategically, so it doesn't cause a problem with any appellate issues, or to sort of even the balance to make it look like they got something and they weren't, it wasn't being prejudiced, because all the other, and the point being is the other motions weren't going to fly, like keeping the wiretaps out or dismissing this thing altogether. So, it is small, and I got to figure it out. But apparently, there are, if you want to see or you're curious or there are videos that Mentor Lawyer has published that are from that courtroom, which give a good sense of the size. I just haven't been able to check it out. Here we go. Jared Ross says, there's another reason why they want 3G. It's the most technology advanced courtroom. Yeah, the bigger courtroom. You mean 3G or 3B? I think I could be getting them confused. When you say they want it, do you mean the defense? So someone was just telling me, yeah, they just give this to him to look like that he got something, so that everything shakes out okay when they're looking at fairness later. They being the prosecution, right? That's what I thought. Gotcha on that. So anyway, this is really funny to me. I went to the Tallahassee Democrat because I was just kind of I was just thinking about this problem. So there was another point that he brought up, and I won't get into it because I got into it so much last night talking about this motion. But I remember Tallahassee Democrat had some pictures of the incident where the juror 15, because it's a high drama moment. I was sitting in the courtroom. It's like interesting that a juror would stand up and, same one that would send, an email to Rashbaum about how after everything that the jurors exchanged numbers to stay in touch in a group chain. So this was the scene from it, and being in the courtroom, it really does bring me back. Let me see. So here it says, a bailiff whispers to Circuit Judge Stephen Everett after a juror asked to speak with her during Charlie Adelson's trial. This was on Halloween. Then you also see here below it, you see Charlie looks back into the courtroom audience as the phone rings during his trial on Tuesday, October 31st, again on Halloween. So then you see the other bailiffs come. You see Judge Everett looking over, and that woman's pointing to the problem. And it wasn't me, thank goodness. And Chris, and then there's Corbett, and you remember from the motion, Rashbaum writes in there, during a testimony of an important government witness. So there it is. There's the moment. And so then finally judge comes over and he warns. He controls his courtroom. Look how serious his face is. So, but it was nipped up in the bud. And it's just, frankly, I think that problem was sitting in the juror's box, to be frank. And there was someone that was talking loud. I'll give him that. But that was it. So anyway, that was a day. Then, okay, so here's the meat of it. I have two sources that gave me the backstory of all of these relocations. And I just wanted to give a brief background on color from the information that I have received, right? Some of this you already know, and there have been many great YouTube videos where people have actually gone and done open houses at Charlie's, one of his newer, older homes, not Well Harbor, but that other one, Tortugas Lane. But so people went in there and did the open house and put it on YouTube, which was hilarious. I love that. So a lot of people have seen these properties. So I'm not going to go into the properties themselves, just give you the general work through of what I know. So I have two sources. One who kind of was a primary source for this it's essentially, hold on one second. I'm going to pull up the information. It's essentially, it's a source, obviously read between the lines, a source with extensive knowledge of the real estate market in Miami. There's also someone who has interacted with the players here and there. So they know this family, they are aware of the situation. It's somebody who has interacted with me for a couple of years now and who I can be very friendly with. And it's someone who's provided me accurate information and materials in the past. And so it's a trusted source. So this is what I've been told, and I think it's quite accurate, but this is the best I can do. And if I get anything wrong, I'm happy to correct it. But, there's a couple points, and there's a couple points into this that kind of weave into the narrative and interesting things to think about as you're thinking about the innocence and guilt of this family. So first, to sort of go over the basics, we know that Donna and Harvey raised their children in this home in Coral Springs. There, again, you can go and see the pictures of it. It has a pool, it has a tennis court. It's very outdated. It almost feels, if you look at the pictures of the inside, which I don't know when the last time things were renovated, but just according to the listing of that's associated with that property, it looks very like 70s, 80s, kind of like Euro hotel. There's something very cold about it. There's like a marble, but it feels very outdated. And but it's a 5-bedroom. It's quite big, but they sold that in 2015. And we know from Jeff Lacasse's interrogation, they treated him like it was interrogation, but his interviews over the course of 3, I don't know which one, he did say that Wendy was, when they were talking at the time where she was in Miami shortly before the murder, that she was saying that she was packing up her things in her childhood home, like she was putting things together. So then, going back to Charlie, he's always resided at the Well Harbor. So this is just like plotting where everybody is. The really interesting thing is this Continuum South Beach rental that they rented in May. So they signed a lease in May, which was the first that we know about. Lewis and Sigfredo went on 2 trips up to Tallahassee. The first was June 4th. The hit was supposed to happen. And then later it was a successful hit of July 19th. We also know that Wendy told, according to Lacasse, that Charlie looked in hiring a hitman in prior summer relocation in 2013. So depending on how, and I do think that there was a 3rd trip with Sigfredo and somebody else prior to the 2 he took with Louise. That's just my hunch. I can't prove that. But that's based on watching Louise's proffer and Catherine Magbano's proffer, where they both kind of insinuate but don't confirm that it seemed like there was a prior trip with Sigfredo. And they both pretty much said that. So I think there was a 3rd trip, and there was the Ashford Club situation, which I think the dates were wrong, but I don't know. It could be something. But anyway, I think that it's just very interesting that they moved in May, because the Continuum is a very high security building. It was somewhere that would be very safe for someone if you were interacting with gang members or contracting them in any way. Or if, according to that Jailhouse route, gang member or whoever, people took the money and run. There was a prior hit. They just took the money and left. So, I mean, it would be something that you maybe think about doing, even though it can't be proved, if you are actually going to be engaged with these caliber of people or this kind of activity. And I was also told that Harvey and Donna never talked about retirement or their plans to live in Miami Beach. Like that was never, they don't have a ton of friends there. Like it was a very unusual, just didn't really see Donna and Harvey settling down there. I think that they did because they knew Wendy would be settling down there. And Wendy is the golden child and Donna helping to essentially be a co-parent. It would make a lot of sense for them to go where Wendy desired to be, which was the hot spots, right? The Miami Beach. So that's where they found themselves there. So essentially in May, they move in, they have this 2-bedroom in May 2014. They quickly realized that when the murder happened in July, Wendy went down 2 days after the murder and essentially lived with them. And she, for almost a year, she says, and she says it in that podcast, which I'm going to play a little tidbit in a second, and some of you may have heard, but so when Wendy got there, they immediately, we have Wendy here now, so we need to get a bigger place because it's not a 2-bedroom. Now we have 4 people living in a 2-bedroom. So what they did is, I've heard they looked really quickly and they, within short order, found this townhouse at the Continuum, and it was much bigger and it was very, very expensive. And I'm going to show you something in a second that's very interesting. Actually, I'll go to that right now. But they leased it a 2-bedroom, and I am told by 2 sources and separately, there's 2 sources that don't know each other. So that what happened was they were able to find a townhouse, this place, really quickly, and it was the only one available. And so they took it, and I'll show you. Harvey signed the lease for this upgrade townhouse on August 1st, right? And on September 1st was the move-in date. So it just shows that they were, within, I don't know, 10, 11 days. Well, if Dan died on the 19th of July, and Harvey is signing and dating something on the 1st of August, they're finding a new space for Wendy to permanently live down there within a week. So, oh my God, I don't know what True Crime Why, he says Shadrach Noble showed up on Patty's chat earlier to say he's a fan of fancy fiction. I don't know what it is. Shadrach, come here now. And you do that on Jay's channel too. Jay has also sent me messages saying Shadrach's showing up, and Jay's talking to someone else, another woman, and Shadrach goes, "Who's this woman? Where's fancy fiction?" I've never corresponded with Shadrach directly. That's hilarious. Shadrach, get up in this chat. So anyway, here's something. So let's jump a little forward. Okay, so we're in the Continuum, right? This is what I got. Okay, so if you look here, this is the actual lease, the property lease that Harvey signed. Sorry, my video is jumping all over. For some reason, it's not like properly pausing. Okay. So if you look here, this is the lease he signed, and for this property. And if you look here, it is. I did mark out some information here, but if you look here, he marks it as a second home, right, Harvey? And then the terms commencing on 9/1, and the payable, it says the total rent is $156,000, and payable $13,000 a month. Advance rent $26,000. Yeah, so they're paying $26,000. They're also first and last month, it looks like, and then security deposit of a month's rent. Yeah, that's pretty expensive. That's pretty lush, huh? Let me see. So here's, here's a little bit more, but here you see, he's signing at each one. But look here, what's important here in the top right is Harvey Adelson. And sorry, everything's jumping around tonight. But if you look here, in addition to get off this document, getting the date of when he signed it, so how quickly they moved. And they were able, I did hear that they were able to find something pretty quickly and they grabbed it. And so it's on August 1st, Wendy was, they were going to be having this bigger place so that Wendy could live with him. So the murder was on July 19th. August 1st, they found this. But I'm told that they had to pay double rent. So they eventually ended up moving in with Wendy and the boys, and they all lived in this 3-bedroom townhome. But it's so annoying. They all lived in this 3-bedroom townhome together, but they were actually, I'm told, there was overlap because they weren't able to get out of, it looks like they just signed that lease. They weren't able to get out. So they had to pay a few months where they were paying double rent on both those apartments, and which had to be very expensive. So that's what I'm told. So they all lived there for whatever, however long until Wendy. So whatever month. So September. So Wendy, they moved in there September 1st, and Wendy wanted her own space, likely. Moved into where she rented a place at the courts at South Beach. And all this information is online. I'm not going to pull up, but you can pull up like these documents. This is public information with her address, which I'm not sharing. And just for the record, I would not ask for people to show up and ever confront Wendy in front of the boys or confront her at all. Let the system, the justice system do the work. But obviously, where she is now, I know I've heard that the apartment, but like a new tenant was approved and that's all going through. I don't know where she goes. I'll wait until someone tells me, but I've heard as much as I shared with you initially is that I had heard that there was a planned move to Austin. And that's all I know. That's what I heard. And I heard it from a credible source. It's someone who told me how they heard it, and I totally believe it. But in terms of, I don't have an air tag on her, nor do I want to. So just let her land where she needs to land. Obviously, it would be great if those boys had a fresh start and weren't harassed in their new place. I do wish that for them. So I've heard it's awesome, and I have not heard anything since all of this. So I'll wait to see. But she went in, she moved into the courts, and she later purchased that apartment for, I've seen the paperwork because I just looked at all of it today, I think for $650,000. And she purchased it in March. So she purchased six years later. And it's really funny, if you look at that paperwork, you can see that the condo or the building or whoever, they said that a background check was not necessary because they knew that the buyer was already a good person in good standing or something like that, which is funny. They're just saying she was currently a renter, so therefore there's no need to do a background check on her. But what's really interesting about this is the big point that I want to make, in addition to how quickly they got that townhouse and they all live together. This is the big point. This is what I want people to think about. Just take a minute to think about this logically. We heard on Charlie's trial that unbeknownst to Wendy, she had just learned that day at court, miraculously, that there was threats out on her life by people who killed her ex-husband and the father of her kids violently in the home she used to live in. And they stalked him. And she was so scared for her life. I heard that the rumors or it'll be confirmed when the people who told me say it probably, or, it comes out and people feel a little more free to talk, that, Wendy was acting terrified. And she even released that statement to the press through her lawyer at the time, Jimmy Jenkins, who I believe was the lawyer she got after Kirsten Adamson, or I hope I'm saying that right. I remember her name right. Wendy's divorce lawyer who Dan accused of having unclean hands and had to remove herself from the case. I think she referred Jimmy Jenkins, and he released a statement to the media, the Democrat, that was put out to everyone. And it said, Wendy is terrified. She's cooperating with the police 100%. But we know at that point she already hung up with Isom and lured up and said, I won't be talking with you. And Donna and Harvey did the same thing. They said that they would interview and they would help. The next day after the funeral, they would talk to ICE, give him an interview, and then they left town. So, but what's really important is that Charlie knows this, and this is, several months later. So in June 15, and Wendy at this point hasn't officially changed the names. She does it in a month. So the fear is so great with her, right, at this point, that she's saying, I still need to change their names permanently in a month because I'm so in fear of their life and having the Markel name. They need to have the Adelson name. But what I'm told about this in particular, this right here, the courts, it says, oh, one more thing I want to put out as I'm looking at my notes. This is just something that I caught on the lease. Yeah, right here. If you look at here, it says, in addition to how much expensive it is, if you look here, it says the number of adults on this first page, number of adults 2, number of children 2. So I guess I just, put that lie to make it seem like the 3 adults would seem weird, right? So if you look here, she's got 2 adults and 2 children. There's 3 adults and 3 children. Donna, Harvey, and Wendy, they're all adults and they're 2 children. So it's a weird thing to, it's just a weird thing to fudge. And we know that Wendy fudged the name change document, which I showed several times in the courtroom, is that she changed it that she was restoring it to a prior name. Right. So it wasn't a prior name. That was always those children's names, but it kept her from having to fill out an additional form. So she said she got confused and did that, but she was not restoring a former name. And so why lie about that on a document? It's a little more work. Yeah, but it's the truth and it's what you're supposed to do. And then here it's 2 adults, 2 children. It's the ease, there's 3 adults. Why? And who cares? There's 3 bedrooms. There's just why? It's just indicative. So another thing I want to say about the courts, the big story. Apologies. I did video because I thought it would be easier, but it's really hard to flip through these slides. There we go. So another thing, so we get the court. So we know that Charlie knows that there's serious threats on her life. And, he gets video security surveillance. Gosh darn it. He gets videos put up, because they're so concerned about the risks now to his life, now that these gangsters are after him. His life's under threat and his family's lives have been threatened. So what I'm told here about the courts where Wendy rented, just, under 11 months after the murder, that what I'm told here is that, so Charlie testified that they moved into a high security building post-murder. So he testified to that in the Continuum for their safety. Yet, within just months later, Wendy moved into a low security building just 9 months later, but before any arrest. So she went to a low security building to rent when there were other doorman safer buildings that she could rent. You think that her mom and her brother wouldn't insist that she have a more secure building with 2 little kids, like a doorman? This is a low security building, and it encompasses 2 full blocks with 8 buildings and is fenced with 10 feet street address stores. So it's not 8 buildings. It's a big compound and there's not a lot of security. So it's just weird. Charlie testified that they moved into a high security building for their safety. Yet Wendy moved into a low security building, out from a high security building into a low security building. So, and then we know that they moved to the Icon because that's where the famous steps were. That was the famous bump right there with the Icon. And so they leased a 2-bedroom in August 2015 and in May 2017. And I just want to say that also too, that this lease is in evidence. This lease is I think it was this winter, it was uploaded into evidence. And there's a lot of great, and I'll just put it this way, there's a lot of great citizens. There's a lot of great people. This source in particular, who I've been, corresponding with for a couple of years now. And this, this got into the evidence because of a source, a concerned citizen that stopped up and say, yeah, this is, they went in and they found this pretty quick. And, two people, and there was that labor. It makes you a little suspicious of their moves. I don't know what it says. I don't know if it's whatever, but it just gives you color that, the way that they're renting and they're moving and protecting their safety, where they go to a high security, but they rent it in May, before the murder. And then they go and quickly get this. They all live together and pay that much money again for, making arrangements within 10 days that they made the decision that Wendy's going to stay and live with them within literally 10 days. Wendy said she couldn't eat for a month. How could she make the decision to live with her? It's very quick. And it may make a lot of sense logistically, especially if it's spelled out in court. Like, yeah, of course, you got to take care of your daughter and their kids now, and they're going to be with you. Of course, you're going to immediately start finding solutions and finding a new place, where all of you can live. But it's just very interesting the way they planned it out. And it's really interesting that Wendy went to a low security building. But I'm really glad that this is a piece of evidence. And I want to thank the person who is just vigilant and gets involved, and anyone else like that too. This is sort of my appeal to this, is that, good people that are involved, that are watching this case closely. They see something, say something, right? And this person did, and now we have this information in, and it, I don't know what it says or what it does, but it, that's a lot of money to pay for a 3-bedroom townhouse. And it's very interesting that Wendy would move to a low security building with those 2 children, and Donna and Charlie would let her do that, knowing the great risks that were made against her and the family. It just doesn't make sense, right? And then they got the apartment in May. A high security building in May. That makes total sense of something that you would do if you were engaging in this kind of activity and with these kind of people. I don't know. It makes sense to me. So that's that. And going back to the slide just to finish it up. That, Harvey, they upgraded in May 2017, which is so funny because you can hear, I almost pulled it up, but I thought this live stream would be too long. But you can hear Donna looking for apartments and telling Charlie that, when she's looking, Clint's helping them look, one of their buddies, and there was someone that helped manage their properties. It's on another call, and Charlie's absolutely berating Clint on this call about how unorganized the rent collections were and how he couldn't see who was paying him what. But also on those calls, you can hear in 2016 that you can hear Donna tell Charlie she's looking at these apartments, but she's like, I can't have an apartment like that with these when I have 2 little boys. Like, she's talking as if they're hers and they're raising, that she lives with them. And that's very interesting. So they did end up moving in May 2017 to another 2-bedroom. Then we know Charlie bought his Torgus Lane in August 2020. And it's so interesting because I look now, they sold it obviously, and other channels have reported that, and I saw that on their channel. But he doubled the property, like, from what he purchased. I think he bought it. I think he doubled his money on that. That's what it looked like when I was looking at I think he bought it for 6 something and sold it for 1.2, or yeah. So he made a good profit on that, if that's what it looks like to me. And then we know that now his property is Charlie doesn't have property now Charlie's property of the state, which is so ironic for a family trying to build their wealth off all these low income housing and all these properties you see right before you on the screen. And now Charlie's ended up being a property of the state. Wait, Shadrack's here? Where are you at, Shadrack? What up, Shadrack? I'm going to say it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You were the star of that trial in 2019. You were not letting anybody, put words in your mouth. And you said what you had to say. And you were not taking any shit. And you just came in there with kind of like, it was refreshing. It was refreshing. And, I loved your red plaid shirt, all of it. So whatever, I'm glad that you're here. Shout out. I hope you're well. And I'm going to get back to a live stream, but welcome. We all, It was a real pleasure seeing you on that stand. I really enjoyed it. It was very funny. So anyway, all the best. I'm going to get back to it. Let me see. So yeah, and so then Harvey purchased the Brickell Towers, and he apparently still lives there today. That's where him and Donna lived in Brickell. And so, and then here's, you know, Wendy. I don't know where Wendy is, but she's you know, she's moving. She's gone. So, or going. So anyway, that's the process. It's just very interesting, you know, to see it all kind of plotted out like that. And now one of these leases, at least I know, is in evidence. I don't know how it'll be used or how significant. And it's just very, and I know how it got in evidence, and it's just people are alert to this and people want to help. So anyway, that's it. That's the roadmap right here. It's a lot of apartments. It's a lot of moving. Can't stay settled. All right. I'm sorry to do this to you guys. We're going to have to listen to Wendy a couple times tonight, but this is just too good. You've probably already heard it before, but this is the writers class workshop. And I decided to pull this clip in particular for us to listen to together because, first of all, how great is it that Wendy went out and just said all this awful stuff that exposed, in my opinion, her narcissism. And she's a shitty writer in terms of, and also in addition to being a shitty writer, she can't write jokes for shit. But we're listening to this because how lucky are we, looking back now, to have B-roll where she is on tape, and the prompt at her creative writing workshop class, the prompt is right here. Wendy was the bottom line. Wendy responds to the prompts. What is the story you tell about your relationship with your mom and your last intimate moment? That prompt is so great between Wendy and Donna. It gives Wendy the time to, it's just the glowingness, that keeping up with appearances. You can see a little bit of the manipulation. You know, my mom thinks she's fat. You know, it's just, for me, I could break it down and get much longer, but I'm putting it in here because I thought it was interesting to play on the back end of those properties and everyone living together, to say how Wendy, not how is, but how she describes how perfect the relationship she has with her mom.
Here's Wendy in response to the prompt. What is the story you tell about your relationship with your mom?
My mom and I have lived together for almost a year. She is selfless, generous, loving, and beautiful. She thinks she is fat. She once got turned down for Weight Watchers because she didn't have enough excess weight to be admitted to the program. She thinks she is stupid. My mom, who won the New York Spelling Bee for middle schoolers when she was only in the 6th grade. I'm so many of the things I am because of who my mom is and who she wants me to be.
That line is so loaded. That line is so loaded.
Many of the things I am because of who my mom is and who she wants me to be. I was valedictorian of my high school. She seemed proudest that I graduated high school still a virgin.
That's so bad. That's so bad. It's like a humble brag. Like she wants to get in that she was a valedictorian, but she also wants to, you know, she also wants to be cute and funny about how the fact that her mom cares more about her chastity. It's knowing them and knowing their backstory. This is so performative. It makes me uneasy. She's relishing this, retelling this like this.
I try to draw boundaries with my mom because lately there aren't any. She is caring for my children right now so that I can be here in class, more like a co-parent than a grandmother. But I accept it because
more like a co-parent than a grandmother. That's exactly what she wanted. That's why that motion wasn't going to get granted. Donna was going to get to be a co-parent. Do you know if there was other hit attempts, which I do think there was prior to this? Who knows how many? But if there say that there was that failed attempt in 2013 or somewhere in between then and the June trip, imagine Donna getting this grandma motion and thinking, I'm trying to kill this guy so bad, and he keeps making it worse. Like Dan had a price on his head probably before he filed that grandma motion. It was just enraging. This gaggle of, in my opinion, narcissist sociopaths. I mean, they're a family that committed murder and went and lived their life. I would never be able to kill someone and go on like nothing's wrong and laughing. I certainly wouldn't be able to give this podcast like this. But she's enjoying this.
But I accept it because as a former kindergarten teacher, she is so adept in that role.
That's a lie. Okay, I've said this before, but I have it from good authority that the way that they keep saying that Donna was a teacher, she was a substitute. She was never a full teacher. She never went in every day to a classroom and created a long-term lesson plan or encouraged kids. She was a substitute teacher. So she got called in whenever. It's kind of like a babysitter, right? That's what she was. So she, it wasn't for a long time. So what it was is she did this a little bit. And I also hear, there was this big thing done about how Wendy was just like big into charity as a kid and gave a lot of awards to underprivileged people and It was like, it wasn't a big thing. She did like once or twice. I really do think a lot of it is it is very performative. I think this little speech is performative, but it's so over the top.
As a former kindergarten teacher, she is so adept in that role. She taught my boys how to recite the 44 presidents, just like she taught.
Here we go. I don't hate substitute teachers. I don't hate any teachers. What I'm saying is she's coming in and she's basically filling a very brief void. She does not have a lesson plan. Everyone that's had a substitute teacher knows that person comes in and basically tries to get by and fill. It's usually a sickness, an illness that they're coming in to substitute for. So what I'm saying is she's not a true professional that has to she comes in and basically watches the children, gets what she can get checked off of what was scheduled for those kids that day, right? But she is by no means, there's no means a knock on a substitute teacher. It's a knock on what she's claiming to be versus the performance that she gave very minimally, and that's what I'm trying to point out. There's no substitute teachers, anyone that works with kids and is good with them and cares about them. So definitely not doing that. I want to make that very clear. I don't want anyone to insinuate otherwise. But Donna was acting as a bit of a babysitter because she would get called in from time to time when there was a need and that the regular parent or teacher wasn't there. And it was very minimal and it was not for a long time. So describing her as a teacher wouldn't be right. It would be describing her more as a very short-term babysitter that she would get called in. And it was not by any way, and it was kindergarten, it was classes, it was nothing formal. That's what I heard.
Taught me when I was 4. I see myself in them, reciting, receiving praise. She has completely changed her life because mine fell apart. I write letters to her in my head every day, ones of immense gratitude for facilitating my return from the bottom. But when we speak, in the few fleeting moments when the kids or my dad don't need something, it comes out like, is the dishwasher clean? And if not, should I run it? Or something else inconsequential about laundry or groceries or aspects of.
Her pregnant pauses while she's reading it to create drama are really funny. Let's hear that again.
Inconsequential about laundry or groceries or aspects of daily life.
Okay. Yeah. And this is something that I found on Twitter and then I saved. I don't know if it's still up, but it was in my files. But essentially, this is the writing class where we had a Twitter account and they put this out as like a joke that Wendy did. It's so lame. So, but I want to just on that writer class workshop, I want to point something. I did it so long ago, but it's worth bringing up because there's a lot of new people and a lot of people probably aren't familiar with my past work, which why should they be if they're not looking for it? So this is worth because it's directly associated with this, and it would be a good thing to share right now just to draw your attention. It was a collaboration I did with Gibbers way back in the day. So let me see here. It's very good. And it's basically what happened is we took this writer's class workshop and we put it put it down. I'm trying to find it. I might have to link it or share it later. But we basically took it and made edits to it line by line from what Wendy said versus what she meant. It's not in the playlist where it should be. Give me 1 second. Only because it's really I may not find it. It's exceptional, in my opinion. Footage and evidence. No. All right, but basically, it's a video on my channel. It's called Writing Class Revised, and it basically takes every word she says and kind of rewrites it if she were telling the truth. And it's got edits on it. I'm gonna try one more place, and if not, I'll give up on it. But it was one of the very first videos from the early stuff I did with gibbers. I don't know why I can't find it. Too many videos. All right, whatever. But it was a really funny takedown of every word she said. Okay, yeah, I've got more info on the witnesses now. Again, I don't want to go with them line by line, but we know Wendy, Sue, and Rick, they were the people that went over and were helping. And a lot of times, we saw from Donna's planner, her calendar, she was writing about Mike Mintz and Will, Gary help, or I forgot who else, but she was writing people I think that would, I was watching this on Mentor Lawyers, and he made this point, people that she thought would testify and help them in court and be back them up. So Sue and Rick came over to kind of do estate planning. Talked about a little bit about them the last time. Marty is, I think, the one that Donna's texting, and Ruth, I think they're friends. Annie Cunningham, I don't know what she does, but Donna's texting her things to do and get in touch. And she's the one that Donna was trying to call when she didn't know she had hung up. Don't know about Ron. Hadn't got a really chance to look. But the more interesting, Elizabeth Emanuel. That is my understanding. That is the ex-funeral director, the one who invited Wendy or told Wendy about the Stock the Bar party, or at least Wendy conveyed that it was the prettiest mortician ever or something like she'd ever known. And so anyway, so that's her. And I've got so my understanding, and my understanding about that is that that Elizabeth is still friends with Wendy, or still friendly, or still believes her. So it's my understanding that probably it's just somebody that can back her up with this Stock the Bar. But even more interesting is that it's the Stock the Bar party was not for her. It wasn't Elizabeth Emanuel getting married, I'm told. It was for somebody else whose name was told to me, but it doesn't matter here or there. It was somebody else. And Elizabeth Emanuel was just the one who sort of passed on the invitation about, bringing Wendy on. So she was it wasn't her party, but she was involved with the invitation. And so here's a very public, it was on public, and I grabbed it a long time ago. But you can see this, Wendy has returned to Tallahassee. That's why it's interesting, because you look here, it says April 10th, 2015. And it says they're at Cascades Park is in Tallahassee with Wendy, Elizabeth, and I think this was supposed to be Courtney. So I redacted everything, and this was public. So, but then the back, that's Wendy and Elizabeth, the prettiest mortician. And that's Wendy on one of her visits back to Tallahassee after the murder. And there's a social media post where she said, "Thank you, Tallahassee, for welcoming me back after the murder." This might be one of those times. But it's probably something to do with the Stock the Bar party, or it's just somebody that's friendly with the Adelsons and they're putting on the list, to create more work for these and confusion for the state's attorney's office. The other one is my boy, Ben Grabner. If you've been following me, you know that I have corresponded with him. I think that this reeks of desperation, because I won't be doing video slides anymore. It's too hard to manage. But I want to give Ben Grabner, I've got mixed feelings about it, because on one end, he's utterly fascinating to me. Fascinating. His Twitter is fascinating. It's infuriating and fascinating. He is an enigma. But let me see here. He took to the airwaves and just really inserted himself in this court case because he contacted people to get Donna's and Harvey's information without. Yeah, Jared has tangled with him. Jared is tangled with him directly. He's gone to all these media outlets have given him, he basically inserted himself. He had a rift with the Weinsteins and the Adelsons over politics, running for politics. And he split the vote and he gave the vote to this other candidate, Wexler, when it was supposed to be Peter. So if Ben hadn't run, according to the Weinsteins and the Adelsons, I'm told, that the vote wouldn't have split and that Peter would have rightly gotten elected. But he didn't. So they blamed him, and the Adelsons took Weinstein's side. And so it was like 2 decades. They were not friends with this guy. They were not close with this guy. They were not family friends. And so much, in fact, that he had to go searching for their number to get in contact after Donna was arrested. And that's when he wrote his op-ed piece. And then he wrote more saying that it was, go read it. I'm not going to pull it up, but go read it because it's really, one was in his own op-ed that he submitted. And then he was completely lifted up and highlighted by the Miami Herald, this Julie Brown. And then you had Billy Corbin, who's like a big news guy, saying, "This is great journal. I'm so proud of this Adelson story with my colleague, Julie Brown." Meanwhile, if you read in there, first of all, he's a wacko, and they get a whole puff piece around him, which is insane that he inserted himself after 20 years and not talking to the family as a family friend, describing them as a 5-star family. I mean, that whole article was centered around someone who I think his association with this case is a fraud and out of self-interest. No offense, Ben, but I tell you this to your face, and we've gone back and forth. So I think that this is really a sign of desperation. I don't think he has any information whatsoever. Didn't know the family. I don't know why they would put him on there, because he's a friend and maybe could say nice things about them. It's very unusual, but even Dateline in 2020, I've picked up this guy as a talking head. They just really aren't doing their work. I thought he had written this woman's orgasm, but I should have trusted my instincts to know that this guy is not an expert in female orgasms. That's on me. But I just assumed, since he is a gynecologist and that his area of expertise, that he did, because he writes all these other books. He wrote My Summer in the Catskills. So he self-published all these other books. So when I see, hold on, I've lost my comment. So when I see that a gynecologist has self-published a book on women's orgasm from a gynecologist, but it's also under the same name, that's a doctor, it's by the same name, and then also also publishes other stuff. It was a connection to make, but he corrected me. He did not write that book. He is not an expert in female orgasms. He's actually pretty cool about it. He's cool when he corresponds. He saw the joke I did, the Fake Onion article about how he was joining the prosecution team, just sort of poking fun, like rewrote it, like Daniel Restaurant. He's on my Instagram and I put it on the socials, but he actually got back to me. He's like, "That's pretty funny. It's, but it's not true, but that's a funny one, fancy." Like he got the humor in it, which is so funny. That's the way to disarm me. This is when I'm being mean, but then you appreciate the gag and you can see the humor in it. And he did. That's why I have mixed feelings. Because no matter how mean I am to you, he's kind of like, "That's still funny. That's a boss move." And that's very confusing to me. But anyway, there he is. He did it. He worked his way in, writing articles, doing everything. He's worked his way into this case. He's now a witness. It reeks of desperation. And I think I put this in a tweet. It's a symptom of a diseased defense. That's Cliff Clavin. Anyway. Okay. So this is another one. I got some intel on this. So I'm just going to go back to the original document. Shiana Siwa and Megan Hathcock, it's interesting. They were inmates in Leon County area around the time of Catherine Magbanua. So that's very interesting to me, because it makes me think maybe they are people that came forward with information about Catherine in jail or something. But they're the defense wants them on the list, and it's probably to muddy waters. It's probably people that inserted themselves. Maybe they were podmates of Catherine. It's just very interesting that they would be added for the defense, not the prosecutions, and that they were in jail around the time of Catherine Magbanua. Here it is. Here are these guys. This is my slides. Here they are. So those two. So I looked them up. God, so annoying. Sorry. I'm hitting pause, but the pause button is not. So I looked up the names. So if you can see here, the Megan Hathcock, she was arrested for uttering and grand theft in 2019. So the timing kind of matches. And then when this woman, this Shiana, she was wanted by Leon County Sheriff's Office. They put out a wanted. I couldn't find a date for that. But then they said she got caught for methamphetamines on the right for Franklin County. So I don't know what association they have with Catherine, but that's the only thing I could think of. And it's the connection I could make, is that it has something to do with them being incarcerated. They came forward, have some information about Catherine Magbanua, like possibly helpful to the defense for some reason. This is interesting. So if you go back to the document, you go back to the document. So you see, God, sorry guys, this is more annoying to me than you, I promise. Pause. So you can see here, we know who the people at the top of the document, second document on the right is. Tim Kelly and Lisa Carey are realtors. Lisa Carey, we heard her on, she's left a message for Wendy that she played pretty early on in her interview, the day of Dan's murder. Then Kristen Adamson, we know her because we saw her being brought by the defense to testify about the divorce with Dan Markel, and she's the one who had to leave the case because Dan accused her of having unclean hands. But what's really interesting, we know Marisol, we know David Oscar Mars, but this Linda Bailey. So I got good information on her from two different sources. Oh, and just so that while we're here, this Eddie Varnes appears to be a local PI, private investigator. So I don't know if he has anything to do with these records or anything new, but I did get some stuff on Linda, and it's twofold. And so let's go to her. The one piece of information that I got on them, and one's very juicy, but I can tell you that the parent coordinator that was working with, here we go. That the parent coordinator that was working with Dan and Wendy that Dan fired, or there was a big problem with, and you can hear that, I think it's an interrogation, that they had a parental coordinator, and it's someone, the person who that was, and I have their name, I won't say it, but it's someone who worked in the office of Linda Bailey. Why Linda Bailey is on and not the parental coordinator that would have direct testimony about the divorce or the parenting issues. But here's what's really funny, and this is someone who also has become someone that I know and I'm friendly with, and they gave me permission to share this, but I said, but obviously don't say my name. But when I saw this come in, this is someone who I've met personally, and I know, and so I know this to be true. And this is someone who's talking to me as at this point a friend now. So I'm going to pull up the message and read for it, because it gives a lot of color into Kristen and Linda, and it gives color to seeing their names on that list. So shout out to my friend who sent me this. And they sent it to me via my Patreon messages. I'm having to go there because I want to read directly from it. Okay, so this came in this morning. Said, hi, hope you're doing well. I'm traveling for work, so I probably can't listen to your live stream, but I listened to your live stream last night, and they said from the defense list, they heard Linda Bailey's name being brought up. And they wrote, she was my divorce attorney. And My ex-husband's divorce attorney was Kristen Adamson. So she was in the middle in between these two. And she said that she likes Linda Bailey very much. She was her divorce. She hates Kristen, obviously, because her ex used them. And this divorce was going on in or around the time that Danny and Wendy were divorcing. So they were engaging these people at the same time. She wanted to point out to me that hourly rates for family divorces were around $300 an hour back then, around this time. So it was similar to around the time that Dan and Wendy were getting divorced. In Tallahassee, 300 was sort of what the going of someone was getting divorced from around that time. It says, so when the Adelsons say that Kristen was $700 an hour, and Donna said that, like, isn't your $700 an hour doing this for you? This person said, I've always wondered how that was possible. How could she be so expensive? And she said that maybe it was, she knew what a pain this family was and this case was, and Dan and Donna and Wendy, that she just upcharged it because she knew it would be difficult, because it seemed so expensive for what it was at that time. It's normally double the normal rate, because this woman was paying Linda, and probably went and got quotes from other lawyers as well. But here's something good. So Linda and Kristen, these two attorneys, went to law school together at FSU. And they were roommates, and they are still friends. I'm sorry, I'm just reading through this. I don't want to read this word for word. I'm getting a good synopsis. So this person says that they don't know why Linda is on the defense list. And I did not communicate that I know that the parental coordinator, who, was public record, was a magistrate, and, had their name, was working out of the office of Linda Bailey. But again, I don't know why that person's not called Linda Bailey. So I was curious. But these two have a relationship. And so she doesn't know why her divorce attorney is now inserted to this case. Okay, and she's saying, as someone who was divorced and had kids in Tallahassee, she said, this is really good. It says, she told her back at that time, as a divorce attorney in Tallahassee, she said, Linda told this person, said, if the dad wants to be involved, hold on one second. If the dad says, I know from my own personal experience, and Linda told me, it says the year, but I'm not going to read that. If the dad wants to be involved in the state of Florida is a big fan of that. If the dad wants to be involved, they're going to award him 50-50 custody unless they are babies to toddlers, and not allow you to move. She said, Linda shot it to me straight, as in, don't even fight it. Don't fight the 50-50. You won't win. It's not good practice unless you have babies. The state of Florida is not going to go for that if you want more. And they won't allow you to move. And so she said, maybe Kristen was making that much money an hour to be like, sure, let's give it a try. She testified, I thought there was a shot given the circumstances. So maybe, yeah, I'll give it a shot for the right money. That's what this person is guessing. So this is just background info. This is not intel. This is just intel from someone who was, heard this name, ears perked up, and gave me a little bit of the background, not only of who this person is, but they have a relationship with another witness. And now you know that relationship. And and this person just said thought this would be good information for you to share on your channel. And so And then I heard from the other source, unrelated to this, that the parental coordinator that was fired by Dan or was caused a problem or was was a witness in their divorce worked out of the office of Linda Bailey. So I don't know if it's how Kirsten got a recommendation. I don't know. Kristen, whatever. I just thought that was very interesting backstory. And I want to thank this person for sharing it with me and now sharing it with all you guys. So that's Linda Bailey. We went over the Jailhouse, guys. Elizabeth Emanuel, Stock the Bar. Okay, these are the photos portions I was telling you about. So someone sent me.
I want to participate in Democracy Lives.
I'm never doing slides like this. The pause doesn't work. Okay. So someone sent me this, just, hey, I thought I would share with you. It doesn't mean anything that I'm talking about on the left. But someone just found that Wendy signed middle school yearbooks. And I just thought it was interesting. I don't know. It doesn't mean anything. I know that. But if Wendy were to sign your yearbook in middle school, the handwriting is very different. I did notice that. I don't know between what years, but whatever. Someone sent it to me. I just wanted to share it. I thought it was funny. Then if you look, another source had sent me this photo they claim is taken in 7 years ago. And it just goes to show that Wendy drinks, she's got looks like a alcohol glass and it had wine with dinner. So, and there's plenty of evidence out there that she drinks and that story they're selling that she's not a drinker. And that's why she threw out and everything Jeff Lacasse says. And there's tons of pictures. She parties and stuff though. Anyway, just another one. Someone just threw it in the mix. So. So deep. I'm really glad I got to know you. I could pull up my middle school books right now and have a good laugh, all that stuff too. Let me see. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about. So there was Wendy worked for Mike Fernandez, and he wrote this. He wrote a press release, and it was shortly after the first 2020 or Dateline aired, and he released it. And he said, "Wendy works for us, and on behalf of myself and the organization, that the prosecutors have rightly concluded she has nothing to do with that." He wrote that. How does he know what it's clear that the prosecutors haven't concluded that and they think she did it. But back in the early days, that's what came out. And so she worked for his foundation, and it was about immigrants' rights, and she was in charge of it. So they put up all this. Let me see here. Share the screen. Okay, so this democracy. So here's something with her here on it right now. It's still up. It was put up 6 years ago. Hold on one second. So you can go look at that. But it's up there, and she's just being very cutesy and giving her little speech. She says she doesn't like to talk about herself and she's shy or whatever. Au contraire, watch that one. But they had another one up, and let's see here. They had another one up, and it was right here. It's these guys. But they had one up. It was Wendy and somebody else. And it got a lot of views. And I remember at the time, I was seeing it real time. It was being passed around. But if you go and you look, it's taken down now. And I knew they would do this. So I screenshot it, and I just thought we would replay it now. It is so rich with... Hold on one second. It's so rich with... She's talking about a lot about her family and how real emphasis on how her family is here because of immigrants' rights. But she also talks about how she goes, I chose Miami to be the place to raise my kids. And that line is very loaded and very upsetting. There's a lot of loaded lines tonight. But the fact that she would say that because, no, Wendy, you didn't choose to move to Miami. There was a murder that happened that allowed you to move to Miami. So just keep that in mind as you're watching this. And again, this is pulled down, and I'm so glad I did, because I knew one day they would take it down. And now I can share it with you. Add this back, and we can watch it together.
I want to participate in Democracy Lives in Miami because this city is very important to me. I chose this as the place to live, to raise my children, and to face some of the issues that I think are most pressing in our country and our world today.
Democracy Lives in Miami means to me that we are in a city that really represents what the future of America looks like. It's a city full of immigrants from all different parts of the world. It's a city with all of the challenges of a growing city. When you hear statements from people that threaten a free press or that call into question an independent judiciary, I really do get concerned about that.
I was raised in a family where I understood from a very early age that we were privileged to live in America, and that my ancestors came from a place where they fled religious persecution. And so I understood that had decisions been different, had laws in this country prevented my ancestors from arriving, that we never would have survived where we came from.
We all want the same things, and we can find common ground, and if we focus on that common ground that we all share, we can have more productive conversations, and we can find a way to work through our differences while still liking each other at the end of the day.
So yeah. So this is the end. Just wanted to give that information, show that lease, encourage people to come forward if you think you might have information helpful to the investigation. I wanted to tell you to subscribe to Adelson's channel and to watch her interviews. It's the part 3. There's 3 parts, and they've been a week apart. And so now we're waiting on the 3rd one. So you can go watch the 2. And the 2nd one was just tonight. I just got in at the tail end, but I'm going to go back and rewatch it. And then, so part 3 is coming up soon. So, go check it out. It's a heartwarming story. And it's frankly, it's coming out of all of us being together and seeing people being online and getting out there and, speaking about things. And so this is happening, and it's, with Katie Cooley, it's spawning, and it's just a nice thing. And it'd be great if you could support it, because it's also a really interesting pursuit of justice. So there's that. And I'll take any questions, and then we'll go. Go to bed. So I'm looking at the bottom. I'm sorry, I couldn't follow the comments. There's this damn thing. Let me see. It was Robert Adelson who fled religious persecution, wasn't it? Yeah, and it's also it's such bullshit and so performative, again, because there are 3 legit immigrants that are going to die in jail, most likely. Well, besides Lewis, 2 immigrants that are going to die in jail, children of immigrants. Well, Katie wasn't. Katie came over. Katie is an immigrant herself. She came over as a young child. Sigfredo, I can't remember. I think he was born here. But they definitely lived with immigrants or raised by immigrants. So it's just, Wendy gives that speech, and she paid immigrants to take through this horrible thing so she could, as she said, she chose the place to live in Miami. Yeah, she chose it, and 3 immigrants went to jail because she paid them to do her dirty work, allegedly, if that's what the state of Florida and the FBI think. So anyway. Oh, I gotta go. Thank you so much. I gotta go to my Patreon. That was the one thing I was missing. I have it all pulled up. I got away from it to read that message. So it wasn't in my little line of fire. Let's go, because I did have some things I want to address from Patreon, because I asked them. And I do remember that question about June's lifestyle. Sorry, I'm going to go back and make sure I get all those questions. I don't know. I mean, she likes luxury goods, but a lot of people post pictures of designer shoes and bags. But there also are companies that rent. Having lived in New York, there was Rent the Runway, which is still going on now, but you can rent bags and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's that, or that's just her passion, designer goods, and that's where she invests her money. I don't know. Maybe she's dating someone that's taking her on trips and buys her presents. Maybe she's actually doing well as a realtor. You know, who knows? But also, do we really know what her lifestyle is like? I mean, that's social media. Okay. Someone wrote, I'm curious who Donna and Harvey's families are. Do we have any background information on them having siblings besides Rob? Who's the family's relatives? I don't want to go too into it because it would be a whole nother live stream, but we know Harvey has these cousins, the Minces. They're his cousins on his side. I think Miles, who's referenced on the call, is an older relative. I think they do have some cousins that have kind of accepted that. And you can hear Miles has his either son or son-in-law is a lawyer, and he said that he was assuring Donna and Harvey that Charlie was scot-free and there was going to be acquitted and this guy was innocent. So that, they do have those family members. I do know that Donna had a brother and who was estranged from the family. And that's all it's not my story to tell, but I would say that Harvey, has everything's pretty normal, but Donna has a past that would not shock you given current events. It's just dysfunctional from what I've heard. And, but yeah, that's kind of, there's some cousins and stuff like that. I don't think Harvey has a brother or sister. I would need to ask. It's funny that's never come up. Just about Donna. Someone asked, how confident am I in Donna's conviction? Will she play the weak grandma card? You never know. I think she will play that. She will play the loving grandmother card, but like I said, it's putting lipstick on a pig. And I think they'll just have to play those calls and show those emails and show that hatred coming out, which is apparent. So I think it's a pretty good case. I think also too, this is the 4th time that Georgia has tried this case. I think there's a huge upgrade with Sarah Catherine Dugan. Going off, no offense to Anna Morris, but Sarah Dugan is a bit of a killer, and I like that. So I think that it's just a stronger team. They work, well together, and I think they know the details of this case really well now. 4th time, and I think that they have, as frustrating as it has been to me and others, they have done this one-by-one strategy, and I think Wendy will eventually be charged. I think people are starting to agree with that now, how obvious it was in this last trial, all the evidence they were leaking, all the ways that they were insinuating that they knew Wendy was in on it. And of course, Daniel Rashbaum even said it himself 2 or 3 times. I know because I was trying to cut it for B-roll to make a video, but then I got lazy. But he said like 3 times, like, the state thinks you did this when he's crossing Wendy. He's like, the state thinks you are part of this. And she's like, yes, I do know that. So it's very clear. And I've had people say it's just, Wendy is smart. She knows the walls are, as a lawyer, she knows the walls are closing in. And, I think that Donna's conviction will be very scary for her because it means they're coming down the line. And she knows they have some evidence and they haven't showed us all. But I mean, that this is so sweet, deleted text, the calendar appointment, driving by the crime. They made a huge deal about her book. I mean, they have a really strong circumstantial case against her. And a lot of people were saying, oh, you can never, Charlie's going to have such fancy lawyers and they're going to put so much resistance that we'll never get a conviction. And it was easy. So I just think the same lines in terms of Donna. I think that this TV is 5. I just don't see how you explain that. The hatred of the motive is clearly there. And a lot of the things that in terms of Charlie's defense of, We know Donna was on top of every detail. The fact that they would even this, they moved to a high security building before the murder. I mean, maybe it was just a coincidence they were looking to do that anyway. But I think there's probably more. I think that even the fact we've got all this consciousness of guilt and leaving the country, and this Scott Radius is possibly intensifying. That's huge. So I think that the TV is 5, the emails and the motive. I think it's also very interesting, and this is probably going to be my next little graphic or post, because I've been thinking about a way to convey this. But the point of this, or the premise of the post that I want to get across to convey to you, is that if you think about this, Donna Adelson, this gold star mother, this woman that wanted complete control over all of her children to the point all their lives are ruined, and including Donna's. But if you look at it, this mother is about to go, put simply, a mother is that prided herself on being the ideal mother and appearances and the ideal family and everything, everyone getting everything they wanted. And she's going to be on trial, and potentially her 3 children will be taking the stand to give varying degrees of testimony against her to put her away from murder. You've got Charlie, who's got the transfer order, and I don't know if he will or won't testify. But he might think he's trying to help Donna, and he might go on the stand and make her look worse. So you could almost have like this woman and then same thing with Wendy. Wendy's, as the jurors who hung the jury and voted for Catherine Magbanua not guilty, she said Wendy did herself no favors with that testimony, and all the jurors knew that you couldn't see the crime scene tape from Centerville, and that she was lying on the stand with that. And none of them liked him. She insinuated the jury had already made their decision on Wendy. And a lot of that, I think back to that juror interview, I'm thinking maybe Georgia must have gotten that signal with interviews, because that's why she went, there was so much Wendy. And even Donna said it. It wasn't Wendy's trial, it was your trial. But I think there's strategy there. I think Georgia heard from those jurors that Wendy does look the most guilty. The circumstances surrender. Of course, you don't have her on the phone or an email saying, it was great being a part of killing Dan with my family. It was really cool. I love driving by the crime scene. I mean, that people want things to be so clear, but I do think it's a relatively strong case. And I think they're going one by one. It's methodical strategy. And I think that's just it, basically. But I do think Donna will be convicted, but I don't know what I don't know. But having seen the defense witness list with Ben Gravener and these realtors I think it's a really weak thing. Of course, Donna and Wendy are going to be out making plans, doing things to look as if they're happy to stay in Tallahassee. That's part of the things you would be doing if you're planning a murder, right? So you just have to think like 2-dimensionally, 3-dimensionally of how these people are thinking as they're trying to plant seeds and get away with this. And so I think that they will. Let me see my other questions. Someone saying they think Wendy will flee before trial. I don't know. Someone is agreeing, saying that Vietnam villa is waiting for her, waiting for Wendy. I had someone else tell me, and I said on what live stream, someone that knows her and is a lawyer, and said that Wendy would probably, it's likely scenario that she would sit to the boys down and say, hey, I'm getting married, honeymooning, and just won't be here for Donna's trial. We'll just leave. And then that way she's given a good excuse to the boys, or I don't know. This person told me also they heard that the boys were calling George, her boyfriend, dad. Like that they consider that that's happening. And I remember how Jeff said that when he was talking to Jeff about how the boys could call Jeff dad. That's it, I think. Oh, and someone else, and I need to get back to them, sent me the Karen Reed, sort of the smaller courtroom that was successful thing. And I want to thank you for that. I did see that. And yeah, I don't know if this, it's the last slide I'm looking at here, but yeah. And then also someone made the point to me is like, they would just go ahead and give the smaller courtroom to the defense, because they're not going to get in any of those other motions that they put in, and like excluding the wiretaps and all that, excluding the trial altogether, the charges. But they're not going to get anything. So in order to seem fair and to reduce the risk of appeal, things they could appeal on, they might just give them the smaller courtroom, which would be unfortunate, but it could happen. And almost this person kind of insinuated, who's on the right side, wanted it to happen to lessen is it not a painful move, as painful a move to make as thought, to ensure that there are no problems at the end at the end of this, should there be a conviction with appellate issues. So that's it. Good night, everybody. See if anybody's here, and if not, see you online. Oh, here's a question. How did Wendy, being a lawyer, wouldn't talk to her family out of committing a murder? Was Wendy that desperate that she ignored her common sense and logic? Yeah, I think that I just think that she didn't think that she thought that they were smart enough they could get away with it. And I think she was just so desperate. Yeah, Katie Cooley. And also too, it's rewarding a kind of ridiculous motion. It's rewarding a ridiculous request that has a falsehood as a point, rewriting history in terms of saying someone in the courtroom took a picture of a Post-it note when it was actually someone who was sitting in their own home, probably doing a screenshot, which has nothing, the courtroom has nothing to, and anyone in it has nothing to do with that. But you make it a big point, or that people's phones ring. That that happens anywhere, and it's going to happen in any court, regardless. People are humans. So it would also just be kind of giving away. It'd be rewarding like a very weak, non-factual motion that it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But I guess that's the strategy of how this shakes out. I don't know, but I agree with you. Plus, saying he doesn't have a view of jurors, but people sitting farther away from behind him do have a view. Yeah. So, Wendy jealous of Dan's new girlfriend. Yes, and I've been saying this for a while, and I did a live stream about this. But also, too, I'm putting it out. I'll do it very briefly. Amy was everything that Wendy wasn't. She had her own credentials. She was the editor of the Yale Law Review at Yale Law School. Dan was the counterpart, the editor of the Harvard, Law Journal or whatever. She has this really super sexy, cool job that is very elite, which is basically she teaches and is she's an expert witness, or she goes in at a very high level, and she is a expert in the intersection of copyright law and art. So who owns art, essentially? So she, will take her students to, the Met for the day to look at art and think about law. It's very cool. It's very attractive. She lives in New York City. Her brother is famous, and having lived in New York City, I understand sort of the local famousness of who her brother is, who is Jonathan Adler, who is a designer and has a lot of brick and mortars everywhere, has a line in Target, and he is married to or a partner with, last I heard, I forgot the name, but another man who does all of the Christmas decorations, the windows of Saks Fifth Avenue, Bergdorf, all of them. But he basically, gosh, that's gonna bug me. It's a big deal. It's very arty. It's very prominent. And, he is also, artist designer, and they're a bit of a power couple in the art scene. And then you've got Amy, and she is very beautiful. And that is why, and I've pointed this out, that the first thing that Wendy gets out, and it's a very awkward moment, is saying Amy's age, saying she's 50. And she looks at Isom for like a response, like, yeah, like he gives a, but it's very, and then Tamara said in an interview, police interview that was taped after the murder, she said that Dan said that Wendy was very upset. I think it was her. Wendy was very upset about, no, it was Jeff. Jeff said in an interview, he said that, Wendy was very upset. I think Tamara may have echoed it. But now it's more coming to remembering visually. Jeff said in an interview, he said that Wendy was upset by this very much. She said that she was very upset that Dan and Amy would be in bed and would Skype the boys, or Skype, them, and And Jeff, I remember he even turned and said that Wendy said, we would never do that. And that she was so nervous to meet the new woman that she had Harvey stand with her at the door while they came and picked up the kids, and she met her the first time because she couldn't do it alone. She's so over Dan, so she's threatened, she's not. So anyway, and I think she was threatened. So really, too, what this would mean is that the Markel boys, if this looks like this was preceding this relationship, it looks like that Dan was going to start doing a lot of very flashy things with a very flashy, cool new girl with a lot of great connections. This kind of like riding high on life. It's the coolest job and has made all the intellectual and academic achievements that Wendy couldn't dream of. And, it would mean the boys, potentially going to visit, in New York or something, or going to, the Hamptons for the weekend and hanging out with all these really wonderful, fabulous it people, while Wendy is stuck in, Tallahassee, whatever, so there was a lot of resentment. And plus, you never want to, some people do, but most people don't want to see your ex do really well with their first serious relationship after you. And you don't want to feel threatened by it being a very beautiful lawyer with a very high-powered job and an excellent resume that totally supersedes your own. I bet that would be pretty threatening. And who knew famous people. And another thing that doesn't get promoted a lot, and Amy Adler, and I think Amy Adler and the next door neighbor, whose name I'm forgetting, right, Geiger, are the only two depositions that Dan took. And part of that was to keep it tight, keep the defense tight. He said it was successful. When a lot of people say that Dan in that STS interview said that the defense was successful, when clearly it wasn't. He was saying the effort to keep the defense with their defense would be secret before that reveal was successful, because they did. But so he took those two depositions. But I think that the main point is that I forgot what I was going to say. Amy Adler's she's kept pretty much out of the radar, and that's very good. And she's not been called. She hasn't done any interviews, and she clearly is very honorable about all of this. And it probably is very painful when you're falling in love with someone to have them viciously murdered, and you kind of think why. But what a lot of doesn't get talked about is something that's in Ruth's book, which I think speaks very highly of Amy Adler. In addition to her, just sort of keeping her privacy about all this is admirable. But I think another thing that was in Ruth's book is that Ruth has these very high, and the Markels have these very high profile, very powerful attorneys, Orrin Cohen and Matt Benjamin, that work at, forgetting the law firm. It's a big one, but they're very, very prominent, very powerful. I mean, all sorts of celebrities, and they took the Markels on pro bono. And according to Ruth's book, they did it because they did it for Amy Adler, because they were friends with her, and they wanted to make sure, and Amy wanted to make sure that the Markels got the best of the best legal representation. And they did it for pro bono, took the Markels on for Amy Adler. So I don't know what her relationship, her friendship is, but that's pretty powerful, that someone whose hourly rate greatly exceeds even the $700 we were probably talking about. I mean, this guy, if you think back, Oren Snyder is the lawyer, the big one that's very prominent. I think he got in some trouble with Facebook recently, but he, if you go back, you think to the Facebook movie, or Aaron Sorkin movie, I'm forgetting the name of it, but where Mark Zuckerberg and the family, he's sitting at the table, a lawyer's table, and da-da-da. Well, his lawyer was for that transaction, and he is Facebook's whatever. He's Oren Snyder, and he's like Bob Dylan's lawyer. I mean, he's very powerful, and he doesn't need to take on the family of a murdered law professor in Tallahassee, Florida, but they did, and it's a lot of work, and they write a lot of letters and resources, and they all did it, for her. So that's friends in high places, and it speaks highly of that someone would do that for you. So that is also very much a testament to Amy Adler. And also I read, and I think I mentioned this before, I was initially sort of researching her, I read that, something article or blog about her, but it was about how this person was interviewing her, and they came to interviewer, and they were describing her and said she was dressed in a Chanel suit. And that's just so classy. And, I heard that Wendy was, wearing Skechers all the time and Tallahassee, and just this discrepancy of the lifestyle of all the rest, it's a lot. It's a lot. It was a bitter pill to swallow for Wendy. And I think that's why she was so quick to go for the one thing that maybe she had over Amy Adler, which is youth, which is why it was so weird. She said that to Isom and almost waited for a reaction from him. Like she wanted him to be like disgusted by, there was like what, a 7-8 year age difference, which is nothing. So very telling to me, that behavior. The insecurity was very loud. Okay. Yeah, Google Amy Adler. I mean, it's cool. I was researching something out of my own interest, and it was about copyright law. And I was just trying to figure out and understand it as a layperson. And, I went in and there's Supreme Court rulings like the Rasta man and how that was copyrighted. I don't know if even know what I'm talking about. And then that recently got overturned, or something got overturned with a Warhol painting where you could go in and sort of move around things a little bit. So that's our whole jam, is who owns art. And these days, you can take any kind of, these photos aren't mine. They're Alicia Devine's Tallahassee Democrat, so I don't have ownership. There's very limited what you can do with someone else's work, but that's what she studies. But I was looking and I read this piece she did, which was a paper she did about sometimes you can't always win. Someone's going to steal your ideas or your designs or your art and try to make it their own. But what you can do is put social pressure on them and beat them other ways. So it was this piece, and it was Diet Prada. I don't know if anybody knows Diet Prada or Falls. It's all about knockoffs and stuff in the fashion industry. But that was referenced. And I remember reading it, and I could read it from a layman's perspective. And it was so weird because I was searching for answers and research on my own. And here I am, and I find something, an article that Amy Adler did. Maybe I'll share it on my Patreon or something so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's just, she's doing important things. And she was a whole different caliber than Wendy. And Wendy knew that. Yeah, nothing against Skechers. I'm just saying this woman was wearing Chanel suits. It's a Tallahassee life versus New York is kind of more the comparison. Yeah, she did point the finger to Amy Adler, Amy Adler's husband. And if you saw the Tamara's interview with Isom, she talked about how she went to the house the day after, kind of uninvited. Thank goodness she did that. It was very brave. And she says that Wendy and Janine, who's another person, one of the people that was eating lunch, and I got a whole backstory on her, and I've even interacted with her, a doctor. And she says that Janine was like hovering over her like a bodyguard, and they were all talking about like, do you know about Amy Adler's husband? Would you know about him? Like they were really pushing that. And then next they were really pushing the rabbis, anything that wasn't Wendy and her family, essentially. All right. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for staying with me. It went much longer than I thought it would. Subscribe to Adelson Galvani's channel and go watch those interviews on Katie's channel on YouTube and Adelson's. I think they're up there. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. I'll answer one more question. Jean and Jane are different. I'll probably do that. Craig Isom went and got Janine because she was having lunch, went and got her for an interview because Janine called Wendy and they had this on her phone and said, I know he did this. I know. It was like blaming Dan. And so they had to interview her. It was like, well, what do you know? Because you have to take everything seriously. And she lied. And she said she didn't make the phone call, and it's a whole thing. And then Isom had to play the phone call back for her, the message back. And she still denied it. So it's just very weird, and I'll cover that shortly. That'll be the next thing I'll cover. All right, really goodbye now. So thank you. Social Network was the movie about Facebook. Thank you. All right, thanks everyone. Night all.